Hey, royal family. We're visiting Cape Coast Castle in Cape Coast in Ghana. This is where the slaves were kept before they were sent out to different parts of the world, including the Caribbean and South America. There's an admission cost to go in. I'm not sure what the new cost is, so definitely look it up before you go. It's a 2.5, 3 hour tour. The castle is very big and sometimes depends on the amount of people. It can be very long.
And then finally, the first English church in Gold Coast. Basically, there are three castles in Ghana. We have the Elimina Castle, built by the Portuguese around 1482. We also have the Christianborg Castle in Accra, built by the Danish around 1661. And then Cape Coast Castle and Dungeons. This castle built by the British around 1665. However, in the whole of West Africa, Europeans built about 66 forts and castles. Out of the 66, Ghana had about 46 because of gold. Gold attracted Europeans to this part of the world. This castle was built by the British at the point when transatlantic slave trade was at its peak, and that our ancestors were captured not only from present-day Ghana, but including present-day Burkina Faso, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Mali, Senegal, Gambia, and other neighboring West African countries. But wherever they were captured, they walked barefooted through the forest to a community called Asan Manso. Over there is a river called Slave River. That was where they took their last African bath. From there, they walked into the castle. Here in the castle, the first port of call was the Palava Hall. That was where our ancestors were auctioned. From the Palava Hall, they brought them to the courtyard. In the courtyard, branding onions were heated. They used those branding onions to brand them for easy identification. After the branding, they were separated. The men were held down here as the women were held in the female's captive dungeon. So join me in the male captive dungeon. But mind your steps as you walk over here. It's slippery, so it's advisable that you walk in the middle. Please mind your steps.
This has to be one of the most emotional walks that I've ever experienced because you get to see what your ancestors went through before they came to Jamaica, Brazil, to all these different places. The darkness that they were living in, the squalor, a lot of the chambers, they still had the original flooring. It's still the original walls. So you're pretty much touching the walls and walking the steps that your ancestors stepped.
Five chambers were designed for 1,000 men at a time. 1,000 men at a time. What it means is that 200 men in each of the chambers at a time. So 200 men will be here for a minimum period of 2 weeks and a maximum period of 3 months of being shipment. Each place was a complete apartment. They were fed in here. They defecated here, they slept here, they did everything here. At the time, there wasn't any electricity in the country. For that reason, the host up there served a source of light and ventilation. The trenches here served as drainage system. When it rained, water passed through the hole towards their faces to vomit, leftover food among other materials into the sea. So you can imagine the smell here at the time. You can imagine the mosquitoes here at the time. Most of them died. Those who died were thrown into the sea for the fish to eat. Some were put in mass barrier in the courtyard. An excavation work done in the courtyard around 1996 confirmed that some were given mass barrier over there. This chamber was for the strong men, those who were always trying to rebel. They were here. Don't forget why they were here. They were in chains, in shackles. And they said that the walls have ears, the walls have eyes, the walls have mouth, but they don't have the raw power to speak. If the walls could speak, the walls would have been in the best position to tell us the story. If the walls could speak, they would have been in the best position to tell us the pains, the difficulties, the endurance, the brutalities that the captives experienced. In 1972-1973, a group of archaeologists from the University of Ghana, they came in to excavate this floor. They discovered that the floor was made of feces, urine, vomit, leftover food among other materials. So the entire floor was covered with these materials up to this level, and they lived in it. There are samples of their feces on the wall. That's the appears like this, they live in their faces. They had no option than to live in their faces. They had no option than to live in their leftover food. Our ancestors had no option than to live in their dwelling for 2 weeks to 3 months. They lost their feelings of human light and ventilation for 200 years. Third thing. But it is important to recognize that Europeans came to the Gold Coast as traders and then also as missionaries. The Portuguese were the first European nation to have come to the Gold Coast. They came around 1471. They brought us the first church. That was the Roman Catholic Church. So the Roman Catholic Church was established in the courtyard of the Elmina Castle. The people of them brought us Presbyterian. The Natal is the head of all the 77 shrines in Cape Coast. The priest in charge is called the Accra. He uses palm wine to pour libation to communicate to the spirit. That is why I see the portals. When the chiefs of the land come here to perform their rituals, they sit on the stools. Now let me emphasize that millions of our ancestors died. Millions of them died. Quantitatively, it's been estimated that about 210 million of our ancestors were enslaved. Out of the 210 million, 60 million attempted the Middle Passage. With the 60 million, just about 12.5 million were able to survive the journey. So you can imagine. To survive a condition of this nature, to survive the Middle Passage, which was worse than the situation here, and to get to the New World, it is the grace of the Almighty God. So my guests, brothers and sisters like you brought these to pay tribute to those who died. May their souls rest in perfect peace. Any questions?
Let's continue.
The end of the tunnel. Here was the final exit. So they moved out this way, they joined the boats, then onto the ships. The waves used to come here. The waves used to the steps, so officers closed this side. They created a new exit down there. Therefore, they were no longer moving through this direction. They moved out this way. The end of the channel was closed on 1833 when the traders approached in these tangents. Let's see the punishments there. For that reason, the dependent and the female captives for sexual services. They raped the women. Those women who resisted the officers' rape were given some severe lashes. So giving them some lashes, they brought them here. They locked them out. Food and water was given to them through this hole. They created a hole here in order for them to defecate here and then also to urinate here to save transitory for others. Punishment for the female captives. In terms of numbers, depending on the number, as resisted officers rape at the time. It could be 20 or more or less at the time. And that they will be in here for 5 to 7 days. Punishment is the female captive dungeons. Two separate dungeons for the female captives. One here, one this way. Let's quickly look at this side.
Oh, there's no light in this one.
Female captives, thank you. Surprisingly, on average, 150 female captives would be here with children. 150 would be there with children. They would be here for 2 weeks minimum, 3 months maximum. Indeed, at the time, there wasn't any sanitary pad. Menstruation happened right time. They lived in their midst. There was an entrance, the officers took it. We selected some of the women, took them out, and forced them for sexual services. Some of the officers went to town. They got married to some of the women out there. They had children with them, and those children were educated. So Western education, the country started in the Elmina Castle, and then here in the Cape Coast Castle. Western education in the country started around 1529. Those children were given European names such as Johnson, Smith, Ferguson, Addison, Morrison, among other senses. So these names are very common, especially along the coast of Ghana. This is an indication that we still have the descendants of those children in the country. Source of light and ventilation out there. Any questions? The original door of no return was very short and now it's that one person could walk through at a time. Should you go to the Elmina Castle, you will see the original door of no return. This one was enlarged because this place became the seat of government. Here in Ghana, Cape Coast was the capital town, but the governance seat was relocated to Accra on the 19th of March, 1877, because of political and economic reasons. And so, as our ancestors used this door to the Americas, to the Caribbean islands, to the West Indies, they were not expected to come back to Africa. They lost their identity. Properties that they had in Africa, they lost everything. They lost contact with family members. Today, we are using the same door of no return. However, you are assured that we are going to return. Yeah, so again, the ships would not come to this part of the shore or this part of the sun. So they used smaller boats to convey them and then transfer them onto the ships. They were packed like sardines and they died in their homes. Those who died were thrown into the ocean for the fishing to eat them out. Those that were found sick and weak were equally thrown into the ocean for the fishes to eat them out. They spent about a month to 3 before getting to the New World, depending on the direction of the wind, the weather, and then also the destination. 23 years ago, Ghana celebrated the first Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, to commemorate the end of slave trade. The occasion was dubbed the Great Kumquat. During that celebration, 2 of our ancestors were exhumed from their graves and were brought back to the castle. They were exhumed from Jamaica and then New York. Some were casting from New York, Madame Crystal from Jamaica. Through airplane, they brought them to Kotoka International Airport. Through the land, they got a community called Abanze. Through the ocean, they came back to the castle through this same door. Here in the castle, a ceremony was performed. After that ceremony, they were taken back to Asini Mansion, where they took their last African birth for reburial. So whenever you go to the Asini Mansion slave market, you will see those graves over there. Some were Carson's grave and then Madame Crystal's grave. Asini Mansion is on the Cape Coast Kumasi Highway, so about 45 minutes drive from here, depending on how fast you drive. Their homecoming is symbolic. It is to break the idea of no return so that our brothers and sisters in the diaspora can come back to pay homage to our ancestors. The door of no return has been reversed to door of return, just as you see up there. So on that score, we can now return. It served as a cell, but not any ordinary cell. It served as a condemned cell. We are entering, but please, mind your head. Otherwise, you carry the edifice to very bad.
Go ahead.
That's how it works, smart.
Condemn it.
Condemned soul. You know, some of our ancestors made an attempt of fighting for their freedom. In the same vein, some made an attempt of escaping. So those who made such an attempt were caught and were condemned in here. No water, no source of ventilation, no storage for life. Through suffocation and starvation, they struggled and died. As they died, they were thrown into the ocean for the fishes to eat them up. 3 goats. 2 have been removed, only 1 left. And even the 1 goat left, let's say the needs in the air. This suggests that yes, our ancestors went through hell. They went through also. They went through vents and their souls resting in the first place. Mind the air some more, please.
This is really low. I'm 5'5" and I can't even get onto here.
Palava is a Portuguese word. It means to bargain, to negotiate, to choke. So, as our ancestors were marched down to the castle, here was the first port of call. Doctors and nurses were here together with the merchants to examine their strength. The price of a captive was determined based on the strength. They used second-hand clothing, mirror, gunpowder, schnapps, tobacco, among other European goods in exchange for our ancestors. The bond of 1844, which paved the way for the English, the colonizers' entry for 113 years, was signed over here. Important meetings were held over here. Therefore, the history of Ghana and then also the history of the transatlantic slave trade cannot be complete without talking about this one, because the hub played a major role in the history of Ghana as well as the transatlantic slave trade. End of this. Mentioned that Anglican Church started in the castle around 1752. As they moved from the castle, that is the first Anglican church built in the country, the cathedral behind the castle, built around 1865. I also mentioned that Methodist Church started in the castle around 1835. As they moved, that is the first Methodist church built in the country, the one behind the mast by the Green. We have Roman Catholic Church at the stream end. And that because of the Methodist Church here in particular, this part of Cape Coast is called Chapel Square. On the hill we have Fort William on the hill, built around 1820. English soldiers were there 24/7 to protect the castle both inland and offshore. Where we have the shops was the soldiers' barracks. English soldiers were here 24/7 to protect the castle. Prisons in the country started from here after the abolition of the slave trade. Let's visit Macleigh's Hall and then continue from there. George Macleigh's Hall. Land area for that, George Macleay established the first court of justice in the country around 1843. That was 10 years after the abolition of the slave trade. So the former judicial status in the country started in this hall. Original design and materials have been changed. Let's move to the governor's hall and then the governor's hall. We are here to examine the differences between this place and the dungeons. We've all been there, we are all here. Do you see differences? If you do, what are some of the differences? Differences between this place and
the floor.
Within floor.
Floor, they have windows.
Windows.
They Ventilation.
Enough light. Fresh air. Right, let's see the bedroom. Let's see the governor's bedroom. Governor's bedroom many years ago. One governor lived there at the time. And look at the differences between this place and the dungeons. Think about it. Now you might have heard so much as far as the subject matter is concerned. You might have read a lot of literature. You might have watched a lot of serious documentaries, movies. You might have even specialized in history. But having gone through the dungeons, having come here, let's reflect on the subject matter once again. Governor's bedroom. Let's see the governor's reception area. From there, we will conclude as the first English church. That's the governor's closet. Governor's closet. Straight up on the hill, see the fort. You see the fort on the hill. Soldiers stood here to receive signals from soldiers up there. You used flag, mirror, and then Morse code to communicate. Flag in the morning, mirror in the afternoon, Morse code in the evening. Communication. Right. Governor's reception area. They used to entertain themselves right here. They used to drink their snacks. Look at the space. Look at the number of windows here. Compare the situation here to the situation down here. Think about it. And let's conclude as the first in this church. Alright, so this was the church. Church of England, which changed name to Anglican Church. The church is now children's library. Methodist church started in the courtyard. Church here, preaching here, hymns here, worship here, prayers here, screaming, crying when dying down. So, ironically,
So unfortunately, I lost some of the audio for these videos as well as more recordings, but we were able to explore the castle on our own, like after, just to walk around, see the layout of the different sections where they were able to view like ships coming in to pick up the slave or to drop merchandise off. It's one of those bittersweet things. This was one of the rooms that they kept the chief, one of the Ashanti chief, and then they had separated the wife because they kept them there in order to try and get the gold. Another thing was that the way the castle was built, in the front of it, there's a bridge, and the water is supposed to run in underneath that bridge. So in case that there's an attack, they can pull the bridge up and it would just be water. You can only see it when you're coming in or if you're really high up on the building. But yeah, this is one of the things that kind of irks my feeling, that they separated the chief and his wife because as punishment, because he wouldn't talk where the gold was, and then when he did, that was the punishment, that yes, you can have your wife, but they had them in separate rooms. The only thing about this was at least he had space to live in, as well as there was better ventilation in comparison to what you saw with the other dungeons or chambers that they held the slaves. Some of them were in the room 200 at a time, 100 at a time. Women were beaten and raped, and those who was fighting was put in a separate room for punishment, without food, without water, for days. And even though I went there and it was just a few of us in the rooms were hot. Like there were 80 to probably 90 degrees. The rooms were very hot that day that we went. So just imagine what it's like with 20 people, 200 people in a room with just a small box, maybe like a 8x10 box cut open, where that's the only ventilation, or if the rain falls, that's it. So if you ever get a chance to visit Elmira Castle or Cape Coast Castle in Ghana, I would really encourage you to do so. That way you can connect to your roots, understand where we came from as a people, and see the similarities of what they have in Ghana versus what's in the Caribbean. Thank you for watching this video. Look out for more videos. I have videos coming up with Volta region, where I visited the highest waterfall in West Africa, as well as the monkey sanctuary and other little waterfalls that I went to. So thank you so much for watching. Please share, subscribe, and like this video.